Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Ask Shane Anything, episode 150. That's right, we've reached another milestone with this show. I cannot believe I've done 150 episodes of this show. I think what I like about the show the most is if you go back and watch old episodes, they're still kind of interesting. Which can be said for a lot of Q&A, and a lot of that is because you guys just ask great questions that kind of resonate throughout the ages. They're not just timely to that particular moment, so thank you very much for that. In fact, if you're interested in asking questions for this show, go to SIFTD.net. In the header there, there's a link that you can click, go to our forums, ask me a question about anything. Now, I will say this, if you're pledging at patreon.com/sifted at that higher Ask Shane tier, you do get priority in asking questions, but we take questions from everybody, even people who aren't our patrons. If you'd like to see Sifted continue and the show continue, please consider heading over there to patreon.com/sifted and give us a pledge. That would be awesome. We'd appreciate it very much. Let's get to episode 150. First up, we have a question from OJD. With three of the biggest games of 2025 costing $50, including Split Fiction, Expedition 33, and the Oblivion remaster, and Mafia, also set to release at $50. Do you think this is a trend that is catching on? Are there any other franchises you could see being this price? Well, NeoJD, you have definitely picked up on a little bit of a trend. I actually kind of mentioned this offhand in this week's Game Face, that we're kind of seeing a resurgence, a revival of the AA game. But then I wonder if we've now created this new Quad A category, if AA games are now AAA games. Here's the thing. The line is getting very blurry. I have mentioned this, I think, on Ask Shane. I've definitely mentioned it on Game Face over the last few episodes. But the line between a AA game and a AAA game is getting so blurry. The middleware, the engines, Unreal Engine 5, all these tools, it makes at least making good-looking games a lot easier than it used to be. We just reviewed a game called Blades of Fire on Game Face this week, and that's another AA game that I was really impressed with and I had a great time with. So that one's $60, but still kind of in the same discussion here. So let's get to your question. Is this a sign of things to come? Well, I definitely do think that because there's all this uproar about $80 games and the tariffs are driving up the prices of hardware and things like that, I do feel like people are kind of looking for a cheaper way to remain engaged with the hobby. But you did talk about like this other kind of segment of games, which are AA games that are coming from publishers that usually make AAA games. And I think that has a psychological effect on the consumer and the player. They're used to EA's games costing the most and being the best on the market. So they see a game from EA and they're like, wow, only $50? That seems like a great deal. I think you're going to see the same thing with Mafia later on this year when it's released. People are like, wait, Mafia is usually the same price as all the other games. Now this one's cheaper. There could also be a negative thing attached to this where people are like, well, why is this game cheaper? Maybe it's really short. Maybe it's really not all that good. There is a perception that comes along with pricing over the quality of a product, not just with gaming, but with everything. People generally think stuff that's cheap in price is also cheap in quality or lower in quality. So that's another psychological hurdle you have to get over. Now, back to your question again. I'm sorry, I keep going off on tangents. Back to your question. Is this a trend that's going to continue? I would like to say yes. I wish we had more granular pricing in general. Like I wish, developers kind of looked at it and said, hey, our game's 20 hours. We're going to charge $50 or $60 instead of 70 or 80. It doesn't seem like that's how things are working though. And so I think generally the publishers are looking at a way to increase prices of games without angering their fans. And so I am wondering if some of this stuff is them trying to throw the players and consumers a bone so that they don't become down on the entire industry. They're like, look, we're going to make $80 on Mario Kart World, or we're going to make $80 on the next Last of Us or whatever, but we've got this other smaller thing, this sequel to Returnal, that we're going to charge $50 or $60 for, or we have this Kirby game that we're going to charge $50 or $60 for. So I think what publishers are doing is kind of like a little bit of a bait and switch. They're putting out these cheaper games, and not very many of them, just a few, and I think that's camouflage for them to be able to then ask the higher prices for its bigger franchises. So I think that's a little bit of what's going on. However, here's the thing that's happened this year, is that those AA games, as you pointed out, no, Oblivion isn't one of them, but the other two kind of are. Those AA games are great. Expedition 33 is great. And so that brings up other questions of like, does that change the expectations of consumers? Because now they've played Expedition 33. It's amazing. It's a pretty long game, not overly long, but long enough. Does that change expectations from the player now so that they're expecting games of that quality to cost $50? That could be a detriment to the industry as a whole. So NeoJD, I do see, like you see, that there is this trend recently of these games that look like they're AAA games, and probably are as far as quality is concerned, but maybe they're a little shorter or a little quirky, charging less. I think we're probably going to continue to see that, but as far as the industry shifting towards that model, as much as it might be a good idea, or we might like it, I just don't see that happening. All right, next up, we have a question from Derek D111. You're always the one who values innovation more, whereas Matt seems to value refinement more. Not to put words in his mouth, but is he more positive on Switch 2 than you are? Okay, Derek, I think a couple things go into that. It's not just a simple question of innovation versus a lack of innovation, or I think as Matt likes to say it, he looks for refinement in things instead of looking for the new idea. Now, look, this isn't binary. I'm not like I only like innovative games. And Matt's not like I only like games that refine a concept. That's just kind of the areas that we stray towards in games, but that's not an absolute. Like, I still like games that refine concepts. Matt still likes games that have innovative ideas. It's just where we place our priorities. So I think, I don't think Switch 2 changes anything for either one of us. To me, Switch 2, or the Switch 1, I'm sorry, wasn't all that innovative. The innovation, believe it or not, and I know people don't want to admit this, but the innovation was with the Wii U. That's where Nintendo took the huge risk and fell on its face. And I gotta hand it to Nintendo, because most companies, if they tried something like that and it failed miserably like the Wii U did, most companies would just try to run as far away as they could from that idea or that concept. Instead, Nintendo was like, no, you guys are all wrong. We're right. The technology wasn't there yet, but now it is, and this is what we really wanted to do, the Switch. I think that's kind of what's going on there. And Matt, I don't think his opinion on Nintendo or Nintendo hardware, I don't think it's ever going to change. He's been doing this for 30-some years. His opinion's kind of set in stone at this point. On Nintendo's games. He just doesn't generally like Nintendo software as much as I do, other than games like Xenoblade. He really likes that franchise. But pretty much all Nintendo's other stuff, I tend to like it at least a little bit more than Matt, and I think that cascades down onto our impressions of Nintendo's hardware as well. I think Nintendo's doing the right thing. Would I have liked to see something a little more innovative from Nintendo? Maybe. But if it's the Wii U again, and it's another lost generation where Nintendo tries this crazy idea, or it's the first 3DS, it's like this clunky thing that probably never should have left the design labs, that's when it starts to get a little bit dicey. So I just think a lot of it is just taste. You know, Matt doesn't like Nintendo's games as much as I do, and I think therefore if you're not playing Nintendo's games as much, you don't really build a relationship with Nintendo's hardware. Matt doesn't play Switch in handheld mode. And that's a huge feature of the platform that a lot of people love about it. He doesn't care about it. So that impacts his impressions of the hardware as well. You're right, though. Matt probably should be more excited for Switch 2 because it is in his wheelhouse. Like, the innovation was done before. This is the refinement. This is probably what we hoped, or maybe it should have been all along, the first Switch. So you're right, Matt probably should be a little more excited for Switch 2 than he is because he's kind of getting what he wants. He wants that refinement out of things. But I just think his impressions of Nintendo and Nintendo's hardware throughout the years and everything, I think it just shades his opinion, and I doubt he's probably ever going to change his mind on that. Okay, question 3 comes from Commander Fett. Hey Shane, I remember you talking about getting some DJ equipment from Amazon a while back. Did you ever pick that up? And if so, have you made any mixes or music that you would feel comfortable sharing with the community? Hey, Commander Fett, that's awesome that you remembered that. Sadly, I remember it too, and I still have not bought that equipment. I can't afford it. That's all there is to it. I have been asking for every birthday and every Christmas, every holiday. All I ask for is Amazon gift cards from everybody. So I just keep adding to that pile of Amazon gift cards, hoping that eventually I'll get to the amount that I need to buy the equipment. Well, last year, my old PC just wasn't cutting the mustard anymore. I had to build a new PC. So I spent a lot of the money that I had been given for my DJ gear to build a PC so I could keep SIFTD going. And so now I have to go back and rebuild up that money again. And I wasn't even at the goal anyway last year. So it's very frustrating. I wish I just could afford to just go buy it. I don't buy myself anything. Literally anything. So no, I haven't got the DJ gear. However, there's some stuff that I need to do before I actually get the DJ gear. So I have 2 turntables, 2 1200s, and a CDJ turntable. And I've been using those to DJ all this time. I go back and forth between like a CD and a record. It's really sad, honestly. But the problem is that I have been building my record collection since 1992 or 1993. And I have, I don't know, like 2,000 records. A lot of these records, literally some of them, there was only like 100 of them pressed. They're house records from like, house music records from like 1994 when the genre first started. So some of these records are worth a lot of money. A lot of them aren't, which is kind of surprising. Because the problem is that there were a lot of records released. Every Tuesday there was another 100, 200, 300 records released. And so there are a lot. But if you have some that are good, some of the tracks from those early days that are good, those records are worth a lot of money. So I'm going through my collection. I am digitizing a lot of my records, which means I have to physically put the needle on the record, play the song the whole way through, make sure the levels are all good, onto my computer, record it, and then I can do whatever I want with that record. So right now, I am going through my massive collection, trying to figure out records that I can just get rid of and sell. The ones that I want to just keep, because I want to be able to play vinyl until I die. I don't want to just get rid of all my records. And then basically digitizing the ones that when I get my new gear, I want to play those tracks. So I'm sorting through all this stuff. It is taking forever. It is a nightmare. I never dreamed when I started collecting records, house records in 1993, that I would be at this place in 2025. So anyway, I still don't have the gear. Trust me, as soon as I get it, everybody who knows me will know that I've got it, because it has literally been a goal I've been trying to achieve for like 5 freaking years. Okay, our final question for Landmark episode 150 comes from somebody who has never asked a question for Ask Shane Anything, and that is Los Lotus. Hey Shane, curious to get your take on the current state of Bungie and Marathon. The alpha apparently didn't inspire much confidence, and the overall buzz around extraction shooters seems to be fading outside of a few standouts. On top of that, the recent art theft allegations have cast a shadow over the project. What's your read on where Bungie stands with Marathon, and whether the game or even the genre still has a real shot at success? So, Los Lotus, first of all, thank you for asking a question. Welcome to SIFTD. I actually saw that you registered a long time ago, but you haven't been back to the site for a while. So welcome back. It's good to have you back. Come back, ask me questions anytime. Thank you for this one. I guess the first thing I would say is that we talked about this a ton on Game Face this week. And I get that, you know, not everybody watches Game Face live, and the archive just went up yesterday, and you may not have got a chance to watch it. So I'm answering this question because I like when new people ask questions, and I want to encourage you to keep asking more. So I'm going to try to find a different angle on this from what I've discussed, or what I did just discuss on Game Face with Matt. So to answer your questions directly, the extraction shooter is never going to be mega popular. It's never going to be as big as the Battle Royale shooter, because there's just kind of like dark and evil elements to it. Like the fact that you have to go someplace to leave with all the stuff that you've earned, and everybody knows you're there, and they come there and they try to kill you and take all your stuff. There's just a certain segment of players that are never going to be cool with that. They're never going to enjoy it. The first time it happens to them, they're going to quit and never go back. It's just the facts. There's just a certain segment of people who play games who don't play games to be punished. I guess is the best way I could put it. So Battle Royale is never going to be as popular as a Battle Royale. But at the same time, you're right. It is kind of the next thing that's coming along for shooters, blah, blah, blah. So first of all, the extraction shooter is never going to be as popular as Battle Royale. It's never going to be as popular as Fortnite. And Fortnite will probably just do its own extraction version, and then it'll just cut everyone out of the market anyway. So right now, trying to make a game-as-a-service shooter when you're competing with Fortnite is a really, really tough and difficult task. Now back to Bungie, Marathon, Destiny 2. Look, this is like the 4th time that Bungie's got caught up in like allegations of plagiarism. So this isn't new. If the first 3 didn't bring the studio down, then the 4th one probably won't either, and the 5th one probably won't either, and on and on and on. Maybe when you get to 20, finally the studio gets closed down for that. The bigger reason that something bad might happen with Marathon and Bungie is just finances. The problem with the plagiarism stuff is that it pours a bucket of cold water on a game that, as you pointed out, is already not generating a ton of buzz. The one thing about the game that people seem to remember and remark about is its art style, how it looks, and it was stolen. So the truth is, honestly, are most consumers going to know that Bungie stole the art style for Marathon? No. People that come to SIFTD are going to know. Hardcore gamers are going to know. People that follow game coverage on YouTube or on the internet, those people are going to know. The average consumer is not going to know. And they're going to see Marathon, if it does come out, and they're going to say, wow, I've never seen anything that looked like that. And then a bunch of them are going to try it, and they're going to get killed at the extraction site, and they're never going to play it again. The bigger problem, I think, for me is people are going to be reluctant to try Marathon. The core, like people like us, are going to be reluctant to try it. And trying to charge money for that is, in my opinion, completely idiotic. Like, I feel like the entire barrel of apples has been poisoned by Helldivers 2, because Helldivers 2 was so easy for PlayStation. They just put it out there, sold it for $40, it sold like gangbusters, it's still a huge hit, it's still making headlines today. Literally today. I think that just spoiled the whole barrel of apples. That one apple with the Sony's just like, it's easy. We just put this stuff out, we sell it for $40, we make money selling the game, and we make money in perpetuity from all the DLC and the cosmetics. It's not that easy. It's just not. And I think that's a lesson that Sony needs to learn with Marathon. It's already on thin ice. Don't push the envelope. Make Marathon free to play. At least then you'll have a chance of people trying it. And then you're still going to lose those people who don't want to play an extraction shooter once they realize exactly what it is. But at least the people who maybe are open to the concept of an extraction shooter now have a chance to like Marathon, and maybe they stick around and they buy the cosmetics and you end up making the money for it. It's a bad situation. Right now, PlayStation's first-party game situation is a complete disaster, and it's a nightmare. And PlayStation needs to think long and hard about its next steps. Like, I'm a little concerned that maybe at this point, PlayStation thinks that, like, hey, we're even golden next generation. Microsoft says it's going to put out a console, but does anybody care? That hubris is really rough, because it's right. Like, it is the platform that everybody owns, and whatever it does, everyone's just kind of subjected to. So I hope Sony will start looking at things from a consumer's perspective and won't just look at everything like, well, we're the market leader and we can do whatever the heck we want, because that feels like that's what's happening right now. All right, that's it for Ask Shane 150. A big thanks to everybody who has supported SIFTD or me or this show. Every like, every comment, every dollar that you pledge, it all adds up to make a difference to keep this show going and to keep SIFTD going. I appreciate you all so much. If you haven't jumped in to support us yet, head to patreon.com/SIFTD. $4 a month gets you all our content early. This show a week early, Pactor Factor a week early, Game Face 4 days early. You get a really nice bonus there for pledging. We'd appreciate it very much. And of course, we need that money to keep going. So if you want to see this show continue, if you want to see SIFTD continue, please consider heading on over there. So we'll be back next week for another episode of Ask Shane Anything. We'll see you then.